ताय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं
व्यासेन ग्रथिता पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणी भगवती अष्टादशाध्यायिनी अम्ब त्वामनुसन्ततामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी.
Yeah.
This expression,
This raga expresses two things.
This raga expresses as two things. One is longing, Krishna. The other is excessive attachment, asanga.
Asanga, yeah.
Shankara explained Krishna as longing for an object that you do not have and want it very much. There are many objects in the world, most of which we do not care for. But certain things loom large in the mind as desirable, and this disposition towards them is what we call raga, born of Krishna. It can be with reference to things that are visible, drishta, and those that are not, adrishta, such as heaven. Then again, if we hold on to something, we have with an apprehension that we may lose it. There is also raga, born of asakti. There are many things that we cannot happily part with, even when the time comes. If losing something leaves a void, then that is asakti. It is not mere attachment sakti, but a desperate holding on to the objects. That is asakti. This expression of rajas also binds nidabnati.
Badnati means binding. Nibadnati means binds very thoroughly.
Note that the Lord has said nibadnati here, whereas for sattva he said badnati. With sattva there is culture, sophistication, learning, and certain maturity in which there is bondage, a refined bondage. However, rajas gives rise to a more deeply entrenched bondage, and therefore he has said nibadnati. This bondage is further confused because it leads to karma. Once there is trishna and asakti, you have to do actions, whether what you want is seen, drishta, or unseen, adrishta. In the process of doing these karmas, not only proper actions will be done, but also the improper ones too, which will attract papa. The pressure of raga makes it impossible to avoid actions. The expression of rajas is therefore in the form of karma, and through this, it totally binds the person. Because of karma, there is punya and papa, and because of that, there is further birth. Because of the birth, there is further karma, and the cycle goes on. Therefore, one is completely bound by this rajas. The raga itself, which includes both likes and dislikes, is also binding. Even though Atma is free from doership and enjoyership, if one identifies with the raga, which is purely a mental disposition, both get superimposed upon the self and one suffers a sense of bondage.
Yeah, basically, see, it all looks, very. Once you do your classification like sattva, rajas, tamas, and all that, all these things become very clear. But what is important is basically even this is only a matrix to explain what sort of disposition all of us have already. It is only validates why we are what we are. It doesn't say it is reality. It is because what we are, from where we are, we have to grow. So it validates where we are, why we are what we are. So then we understand and we decide for us to mature, whether it is a sattva sukha or a rajas sukha, tamas sukha, whether we have to grow from tamas, like what he said here. Rajas means nibadnati. Sattva means badnati. Badnati means since you are a mature person, even though it is binding, you will not resort to improper action. To do a Vaidika karma, you will not do an improper action. Because you are already fairly mature enough not to, just because you won't rob somebody and do a ritual. So that much you won't do. But in rajas, like getting a car, beg, borrow and steal, you can do. Because it is rajas, this thing, asakti. Like that is grading it. But either way, everything is grading only. But ultimately, we have to get out of this asakti and the sangha and all that, so that we are. How we will have it? Only when we understand this is only Prakriti, Maya, Prakriti. It's not, doesn't add any value to. It's all there. I mean, living like that. But once you understand, we only have to discern. We don't have to do anything. We have to only discern. Once you discern, the discernment becomes very strong in your life. Automatically, the asakti will come down. You know that this is all happening, okay, but we know very well. Now, my understanding, I am very clear. Here and now, my life, my being is Ishvara Swarupam. And only, my real sambandha is only with Ishvara, Bhagavata and Bhagavan. Like when I do prayer and all that, those two matter. And those two also is only for the purpose of worship. Otherwise, there is only oneness. If this part of a thing gets reinforced, automatically the binding will come down. That is why he will say, Swamiji will say always, Hetu mat bhava. We have seen it before also, I have told. Vita raga bhayak prodam. He is the Hetu mat. Understanding is the Hetu. If you have the understanding, all this will happen. Automatically it will happen. But in the case of not happening, why people are behaving, how they are behaving, at least if not, we may be okay, but people around us may have some problem. In order to validate that, these are all being told. Somebody might have more of rajas, more of tamas, more of sattva. Why is that person behaving like this? All this gets validated. So everyone is the Ishvara Sanadi, everyone is validated. There is no good, bad and ugly. There is only sattva, rajas and tamas. So like that. So then we will be able to have a glad acceptance. And also we will not curse ourselves, we will not curse others. Some sort of empathy will be there, some sort of acceptance will be there. Then automatically your interaction will be more fruitful. You will not get agitated or will not get hurt because of somebody else's behavior. So that will automatically make you feel more and more enriched. And then you will be able to have a space, the discernment, the space between you and your Prakriti. The Sattva, Rajas, Tamas you will have an objective view of that. And you being the Drik or reality, not really get connected with that, although it is there in your life. So slowly the distance, the space will come. The space is the freedom. That's what we are talking about. Yeah.
Verse 8, Tamas expresses as and binds through indifference, slothfulness and sleep. Indriyarteshu vairagyam.
No. Tamastu ajnanajam.
Tamastu ajnanajam.
Ajnanajam vidhi. Very clearly it says.
Tamastu ajnanam vidhi.
Ajnanajam. Ajnanajam means jam means gone. Yeah.
Tamastu ajnanajam vidhi. Mohanam sarvadehinam pramadalasya nidra.
Pramada alasya. Nidra.
Nidrabhi tanni badnani Bharata. O descendant of Bharata, Tamastu vidhi, and Tamas, you know, are Ajnanajam. Ajnanajam, to be born of ignorance. Mohanam, to be that which causes delusion. Sarvadehinam, are all those who have bodies. That Pramada alasya nidrabhihi, by indifference, slothfulness and sleep. Nibadnati, completely binds. O descendant of Bharata, Arjuna, Tamas, may you know, is born of ignorance and causes delusion for all those who have bodies. It binds a person completely by indifference, slothfulness and sleep. Here he says that Tamas is born of ignorance, Ajnanaja. When everything including Sattva and Rajas is born of Ajnana, why specifically mention Tamas here? This Ajnana is called Tula Avidya, not the Mula Avidya, with reference to Atma, which is common to all. Whether a person has predominantly Sattva or Rajas, He is ignorant until he knows the nature of the self. What is discussed here is not self-ignorance, Moola Avidya, but ignorance regarding what is to be done and what is not to be done.
Yeah, this Moola Vidya and Tula Vidya is basically, Moola Vidya is fundamental ignorance, which we are now trying to get rid of. By Brahma Vidya, you will get rid of the fundamental ignorance. But Tula Vidya is knowing something and knowing English but not knowing Hindi or Sanskrit. That is all called Tula Vidya. Vyavahara. This is Vyavahara. Everyone will have some Avidya, definitely. That doesn't really bind. But some people will have more of this Tula Vidya. You will not know anything. You will not make an effort to know anything. That is because of tamas. Laziness, slothfulness, too much of sleep. That is what is being talked about. Tula Vidya. Tula Vidya means Vyavaharika Vidya.
It is a simple discrimination between right and wrong, dharma, adharma, viveka, that is lacking. The person who has rajas has a better idea of what is right and wrong because he is interested in pursuing success and sukha.
Volume is a problem.
No, there's some noise. Noise. Now it's okay.
The person who has rajas has a better idea of what is right and wrong because he is interested in pursuing success and sukha. When tamas predominates, the person is not able to use his intellect, buddhi, at all. Because of that, there is delusion, moha. Things appear different from what they are. There is no sense of what is right and wrong. Everything seems to be all right, even when it is not. This is true for all those who have a body, sarva dehinam. For all jivas, tamas creates delusion, and therefore it is called mohanam, sarva dehinam. Value structures and priorities become confused and distorted. Tamas binds with its manifestations. One of these is pramada, incapacity to do what one knows is to be done. In a situation that clearly calls for an action on one's part, one is not able to act. If a shirt has a small tear, he will not mend it, but when it falls apart, he will lament loudly. This is alasya, apathy or slothfulness, which obstructs the fulfillment of a raga. The raga is pressuring him to act, but alasya prevents him from doing anything. Nothing is so urgent that he has to do it now. Everything can be done tomorrow. Even cooking is a problem for him. He will cook for 1 week and keep eating the same thing. This is a problem stemming from tamas. Another manifestation of tamas is sleep. If it is predominant, a person will sleep too much. Also, if one is overcome by inertia, one is going to look for shortcuts, and all sorts of wrong actions are inevitable. By these manifestations, tamas seems to bind Atma. It only seems to bind, however, because Atma does not sleep or become apathetic or procrastinate, it is free from gunas.
Verses 9 and 10, the expressions of the gunas are briefly restated. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati rajak karmani bharata jnanam avritya tu tamaha pramade sanjayatyuta. Bharata, Sattvam, Sattva, Sukhe in the form of pleasure, Sanjayati binds, Rajas, Karmani in the form of action, Tamas too, but Tamas, Jnanam Avritya, covering knowledge, Pramade in the form of apathy, Uta Sanjayati, indeed binds. Bharata Arjuna, Sattva binds in the form of pleasure and Rajas in the form of action. Tamas, on the other hand, covering knowledge, binds indeed in the form of apathy. Sattva guna binds by impelling one in the pursuit of sukha and by giving sukha too. Rajas binds a person in the form of action. But tamas, it is emphasized here, binds having covered one's capacity to discriminate. The discriminative knowledge born of sattva regarding what is to be done or not to be done is completely covered by tamas, the nature of which is to cover or envelop in darkness. It commits a person to a life of indifference, not doing things that are to be done. Every day there are situations in which one is called upon to act, whether one likes it. Footnote: whether or not is a common expression, but the correct usage is only whether, without being followed by or not. Whether one likes this, grammatically this is right. Swamiji. He has said it in even the essence of Bhagavad Gita. One of the, he mentions this. A person who is overwhelmed by tamas will, more often than not, be unable to do what is required of him or her. That is how tamas binds a person. When everyone is a mixture of these three gunas, why is there the manifestation of a given guna? It is because one becomes predominant over the other two. This predominance can be occasional or more or less established. One person may be more or less tamasika, another predominantly rajasika or satvika. No one is endowed with only one guna, as we see that even the tamasika person has knowledge and therefore enjoys the predominance of sattva occasionally. When do the gunas execute their stated effect? The rule for that is told in the next verse. Rajas tamas chabhibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata rajas sattvam tamas chaiva tamas sattvam rajas tatha. Bharata, O Bharata, sattvam sattva, rajas tamas cha abhibhuya. Overwhelming rajas and tamas, bhavati arises, eva and indeed, rajas, sattvam tamas cha abhibhuya. Overwhelming sattva and tamas, bhavati arises, tatha tamas, so too tamas, sattvam rajas abhibhuya. Overwhelming sattva and rajas, bhavati arises. Bharata Arjuna, sattva arises, overwhelming rajas and tamas. Rajas indeed arises, overwhelming tamas and sattva. So too tamas arises, overwhelming rajas and sattva. Shankara says bhavati means udbhavati, it arises, or it means
He's giving the permutation combination, like different types of people, different types of lives. Like even the animals and all that, they may have more of rajas or more of tamas. A buffalo may have more of tamas. A tiger will have more of rajas. All these things. So the various yonis, various beings are classified on the basis of this classification. And apart from that, our own human also, we can be all the three, depending on our disposition and all that. So all this is to validate why we are what we are, so that we are able to have a glad acceptance. Instead of damning some people or calling them good, bad, ugly, tell them that these are part of the Prakriti, it's all happening. People from different backgrounds have got all these things. We'll have to accept them and at the same time do what we can to improve our own life doesn't get affected by that. At the same time, we should not get involved. We should not get that asakti and binding to our heads because of that, their behavior and all that. All these things, it helps us to grow. At the same time, validate life as it is, so that don't get agitated with what is obtaining around you. So that first thing is you have to accept, then only you can grow. Otherwise you will always get agitated, something or other will keep happening. So that agitation will become part of our life. That is why this classification of Prakriti is very clearly done. This is very easy to understand also. Like all of us see this in our life, these things happening. So it is only validating whatever is happening so that we grow out of it. We grow from tamas to rajas to sattva, so that the freedom, at least dharma, adharma, viveka will be there. Then nitya, anitya, vastu, viveka is only question of learning and understanding. Even dharma, adharma, viveka itself is not there, then nitya, anitya, vastu, viveka, no chance of even inquiring into it. So let us get into that sattva guna where dharma, adharma, viveka becomes manageable. So that is why the classification, the whole classification is based on that objective. That's what he is trying to say, yeah.
Shankara says bhavati means udbhavati, it arises, or it means vardhate, it increases. One guna becomes predominant, overwhelming the other two. When a given guna becomes predominant, its own product begins to manifest. When sattva predominates, its effects like cheerfulness, knowledge, samadhamma, adherence to values, etc. appear. Similarly, rajas produces desires because of which one undertakes action. And when rajas and sattva are overpowered, tamas arises and produces its results like dullness, apathy, sleep, and so on. From these effects,
நீங்க மறுபடியும் படிக்கணும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். நீங்க முதல்ல இந்த 10th ல படிக்கும்போது some voice was some phone call was interfering.
now what? When I was reading,
Now it is okay. Now it is okay. You read from the word verse 10.
Tari, we didn't have any that problem. We didn't have here, so I was not aware. Probably.
Yeah.
Shankara says bhavati means udbhavati, it arises, or it means vardhate, it increases. One guna becomes predominant, overwhelming the other two. When a given guna becomes predominant, its own product begins to manifest. When sattva predominates, its effects like cheerfulness, knowledge, sama, dhamma, adherence to values, etc. appear. Similarly, rajas produces desires because of which one undertakes action. And when rajas and sattva are overpowered, tamas arises and produces its results like dullness, apathy, sleep, and so on. From these effects, we infer which guna is predominant. From a different standpoint, he points out the same thing in the next verses. Somebody can continue.
Verse 11.
Shall I read? I will read. I will continue. Verse 11. सर्वद्वारेषु दहेऽस्मिन् प्रकाश उपजायते ज्ञानं यदा तदा विद्यात् विवृद्धं सत्त्वमित्युत यदा when अस्मिन् देहे in this body सर्वद्वारेषु in all the sense organs prakashaha illumination jnanam which is knowledge upajayate is born tada then sattvam vivruddham sattva has increased iti ut thus indeed vidyat may one know. When illumination, which is knowledge, is born in all the sense organs in this body, then may one know indeed that sattva has increased. Knowing the predominance of sattva, sarvadvareshu literally means with reference to all the gates. Shankara clarifies the meaning by saying that these are all gates of knowledge, like the ears and so on. In other words, all the sense organs. The light, prakasha, which Shankara defines as a particular vritti in the antakarana, arises in all the sense organs in this physical body. This is the light of awareness, otherwise called knowledge, that arises through these sense organs. Because there is alertness and concentration, this knowledge is born. This becomes a basis to infer that sattva is predominant. This happens for everybody, even the person in whom tamas is primary. Then the indication of rajas being predominant is told in the next verse, verse 12. Lobha pravritti prarambha karma nama shama spruha rajaste tani chayante vivruddhe bhartarshaba.
Swamiji, you are muted.
Muted, one second.
No, Swamiji.
Swamiji.
I am muted here.
Bharatarshaba. Verse 12, that's over. Bharatarshaba, of foremost in the line of Bharata, Arjuna, Lobha, greed, Pravritti, physical restlessness, Karmanam, Arabha, undertaking of activities, Ashamaha, mental restlessness, Priha, longing, Etani, these, Rajasi Vivruddhe, when Rajas has increased, Jayante are born. Oh, foremost in the line of Bharata, greed, physical restlessness, undertaking of activities, internal restlessness, longing, these are born when Rajas has increased. Next, knowing the predominance of rajas. When rajas is predominant, these effects of rajas become manifest. Lobha is a desire to have the things that belong to others, and it can also be miscellaneous. Miserliness. It can also be miserliness with reference to one's own wealth. The very desire to appropriate somebody's wealth, the very thought of encroachment is called lobha. Once you develop greed, lobha, your thinking changes to justify it. This is rajas. Another manifestation of rajas is meaningless activity, pravritti, like fidgeting, making knots and undoing them for no reason, nail baiting and so on. Nail baiting and so on. A deliberate calculated undertaking to accomplish a given end. Aramba is also a product of rajas. Even in a satvika person, rajas also become predominant in a given time, because of which varieties of activities take place. In this sense, rajas is a good thing because it makes you act. Similarly, tamas is good because it gives you rest. The difficulty arises when rajas or tamas become predominant at the wrong time. The absence of sama, tranquility, is another manifestation of rajas. It is in other words mental restlessness as opposed to physical restlessness. It can even be a creative restlessness. When sattva begins to predominate, these ideas take shape and you create. Shankara says it is activity to fulfill an ardent desire or longing for something, and rajas also manifests as a longing, spruha for almost any object. These are the indications that rajas is predominant. Then indication of tamas being predominant is told in the next verse 13. Aprakasho pravrittischa pramado moha evacha tas tamaste tani jayante vivruddhe kuru nandana. Kuru Nandana, oh, the joy of the Kuru family, that is Arjuna. Aprakashaha, indifference, mohaha, evacha, and indeed delusions. Etani, these tamasi
You
vivruddhe.
left one.
I left
The
one.
one
Yes.
line you have left. Yeah.
Yeah. That okay. Then again I will read. Kuru Nandana, oh, the joy of the Kuru family, Arjuna. Aprakashaha, dullness. Apravrittihi cha, and absence of activity. Pramadaha, indifference. Mohaha evacha, and indeed delusion. Etani, these tamasi vivruddhe, when tamas has increased. Jayante, are born. Oh, the joy of the Kuru family, dullness and absence of activity, indifference, and indeed delusions, these are born when tamas has increased. Knowing the predominance of the tamas, when tamas is predominant, these products are born. There is aprakasa, absence of alertness, and the discrimination, and pramada, total indifference towards performing any action. Even though there is something to be done, then there is no activity, apravritti. Even beginning anything is a problem. If tamas generally predominates, this occurs not just occasionally, but as a rule. Whenever someone has difficulty beginning something, it means tamas is predominant, whether he is generally satvika, rajasika, or tamasika. He is tamasika. Its manifestation is evident when you try to get up in the morning. When tamas predominates, there is also delusion, moha. Either the mind is not capable of thinking, or if it is, it draws erroneous conclusions. When I do not want to do anything, I am going to make conclusions based upon my aversion to activity, and such conclusions will necessarily be wrong. If tamas is predominant, there will be justification for the lack of activity. Even the theory of karma will be used to justify inertia. This theory is meant to make you responsible for before, what you did before, and what you are doing now. Not to justify your incapacity to do what you are supposed to do. The subsequent gati is based on the gunas predominant at the time of death. Gita goes on to say that a person suffers from the effects of gunas not only in this life but in subsequent lives. If sattva is predominant, he is going to be better off in this life and also in the next one. Similarly, if rajas or tamas are predominant, their effects will not only be felt in this life, but will be influenced in determining the nature of the next life. The result that the departed soul will gain is also born of gunas. Therefore, Bhagavan says, verse 4.
14.
Yada
14.
Yeah,
Prashant,
verse
you can read
14.
that.
14.
Shall I read, uncle? Shall I read?
No, this sloka I will finish, then you can read. Yada sattve pravriddhi tu pralayam yati dehamrit tado tama vidam loka namalan prati padyate. Yes, you can
Yeah.
continue.
यदा तु न च
No, go ahead. Sorry.
यदा तु when sattve pravritte, when sattva has increased, dehabhrita, the one who obtains in the body, the embodied one, pralayam yati, goes to dissolution, that is, dies. Tada, then, uttama vidam, of those who know the highest, amalan lokan, the worlds that are free from impurity, pratipadyate, he gains. When the embodied one dies, when sattva has increased, then he gains the worlds of those who know the highest, that are free from impurity. Dehabhrita, the one who obtains in this body, is the jiva. Tu, in the verse, is to distinguish sattva among the three gunas. If his life had been predominantly sattvika, then sattva will predominate at the time of death. Even if people are reciting Narayana into his ear at the hour of his death, if he has been Rajasika for all his life, he will only think of Mr. Narayana Iyer who owe him some money. The type of thinking that has dominated one's life all along will prevail at the end too. This verse is referring to a person who has lived a Satvika life. Therefore, Yada Pralayam Yati, when he dies, Sattve Pravritte, with Sattva being predominant, then he goes to Amalan Lokan, worlds which are not fraught with pain like heaven. As everyone must, he has matured to become Satvika, and naturally when he dies, he goes to the worlds of those who know the highest. Uttama Vidam Lokan Pratipadyate. These are the gods like Indra, who Shankara says know the truth of this whole creation. Verse 15. The lot of a person who dies when Rajas or Tamas is predominant. Rajasi pralayam gatva karma sangishu jayate tata pralinastamasi mudayonishu jayate. Rajasi pravritte, when Rajas is predominant, pralayam gatva, having died, karma sangishu, among those committed to karma, jayate, he is born, tata, so too, tamasi pravritte, when tamas was predominant, pralinaha, the one who died, muda yonishu, in the muda yonishu,
Mudha.
Jadam.
Fourth da. Mudha.
Muda yonishu, in the wombs of those who have no discriminative faculty, jayate is born. Having died with the predominance of Rajas, he is born among those committed to karma. So too, the one who died with the predominance of Tamas is born in the wombs of those who have no discriminative faculty. When Rajas was predominant in one's life, Rajas alone will predominate at the time of death. Such a person for whom Rajas is predominant at the time of death is born among those who are committed to karma, karma sangishu jayate. These are the human beings committed to various means for achieving various ends either here or in other worlds. So too, the one who died when tamas was predominant is born in the wombs of creatures who are steeped in delusion like the animals. Was steeped in delusion like the animals. In the animal form, tamas is always predominant, and because of that, they lack self consciousness and all its accompanying problems. A dog, for example, even though it is given abundance of dog food, will not hoard it because it has only a rudimentary sense of future and therefore no greed. Human beings alone have this concern for the future. They keep accumulating wealth not only for their own future but also for that of their children. This is all due to the predominance of rajas. Every human being has enough sattva to make him self-conscious and enough rajas and tamas to cause confusion. From this we understand that we can make one guna predominant over the other two. Cultivating values and discipline called yoga helps to make sattva predominant. The whole process of growth is nothing but making sattva predominant over other two gunas. Then it is easy to become one who is gunatita, beyond the gunas, which is to know very clearly that one is not bound by gunas. Swamiji, some people, when they go in a crowd, say for example, they go for a yoga class and they go with 28, 30 students in a hall which can accommodate only 20 people. They kind of get suffocated, and the tamas and rajas is high. Whereas some people will go alone to some place and feel rajasic and tamasic because they are alone. Now this type of feeling or things, why does it come, Swamiji? Some people don't like crowds, some people don't like being alone. Why does this difference come, Swamiji? If it's so
No,
predominant?
it's all basically, one is what is they're trying to say here is it's all because of the disposition. Like disposition is born out of samskara. Samskara meaning earlier birth as well as in this birth, how you have lived your life. See, every day, every time, whatever you do adds to your samskara. If you don't pay attention to it, then it becomes a habit. And once you dwell on it, it becomes a rajas. It becomes a ashakti and all. So that is why we have said that before. Everything that is coming in the mind, the fancy, whether to act, not to act, whether you do the right thing or wrong thing, everything, the mind keeps throwing up all the ideas. It doesn't have any discrimination. You are supposed to use the buddhi to discriminate the right first instance itself. You correct. That much of alertness if you have, you need not allow a tamasika buddhi, a procrastination, or a restlessness, or anxiety, unnecessary fears to come into your life. But once you allow those things to come into your life, you are not alert, lazy, or maybe a bit complacent and all that, then it will start ruling over you. So all the mind, mind is after all an instrument. But once you allow it to get into a rut, like something like there is a road, and there is connect this road to the other next bend. There is a shortcut. So people start using it. So more and more, it becomes a rut. It becomes a pathway by itself. Likewise, our mind also, if you get into a shortcut mode time and again, that becomes the rule. That starts ruling your life. So it's all our own making. Even though you have to be empathetic even to yourself, you don't have to condemn yourself, but you have to be observant about these things. And slowly, the best way, that is what we always say, the pratipaksha bhavana. Okay, you understand, now this has gone too far in my life, this is creating problems for me. Then opposite pratipaksha bhavana you cultivate. Deliberately you start doing things which is to correct that situation. Then that will become the rule. Then automatically that will start ruling over, and the old bad habits will go away. It is the only way to do it. So like famous this thing, that Danena Adanantara Shraddha Ashraddhaya Tara, there is one Samagana, famous Samagana is there. So the only way to learn swimming is by swimming, not on the plastic. You have to go into the pool and swim, right? The same way, only way to get out of these bad habits is to, that it is a bad habit, first observe it as a bad habit, work at it in small little ways, slowly you will move out of it. That is the only way to cross over those things. Once you are alert to that, you know that this is how it is happening. It doesn't help me. So we kind of, that alertness, that that awareness that this is not helping me, that is the first point. Once that point is reached, then you will definitely do something about it. If you don't, even you are not alert to even that, you don't know what you don't know, nobody can help. That we cannot
Actually,
pay for it, that's all.
Actually, we read some chapters back about nothing wrong being rajasic, nothing wrong being tamasic, nothing wrong being sattvic. At times, you have to be all three together. We are
Yeah, every
sometimes
day,
in
no,
rajas
every day
or all
when we
three.
go to sleep, we are tamasic.
But
Every
now,
day, 5 hours, 7 or 8 hours, 25% of our life is tamas only. Nothing wrong in that. So all the three have got a part to play. But at the wrong time, right, the tamas should not be when you are in the office. That is what you have to be alert to. So we don't have to condemn any of these things, but we have to say appropriately where what should play. I think we all know. It's not that we don't know. It's a question of what do you call? We are not since to correct the situation. There is a certain effort is required. That is where the initial inertia is there. That's what he said. No, aramba suraha. Some people will start, will not continue. Some people cannot even start. We have to find out where we are and accordingly change.
verse 16 to 18.
Swamiji, Krishna says in chapter 11, in gunas I am sattvic.
Exactly, yeah. The idea is to help us, he wants us to grow into sattvic person. But also he has told very clearly, sattva guna also can bind. Sattva sukham, we will look at it as atma sukham. Whereas atma sukham is sukha swarupam. Sattva sukham, by doing the right thing at the right time, the right things happen, he feel content. In the sense, for that moment, you are with your swarupa sukham. So nothing disturbs you. That I lack. That is not there temporarily. But if it is because of Vishaya Shukam, after some time you will ask for something else. Then automatically you will go for that particular thing. So that will not be lasting. That Vishaya Sukam is also because of your Sukha Surupam. Once you understand that, then you will not crave for Vishayas. That is Ananda Surupam is not Sattva Sukam. It is your Surupa, your reality. That's what we have been talking about. The beginning of the class, we are talking about our reality. Once that reality is Sukha Surupi, then when that understanding is there, then everything else has got a place. Sattva, Rajas, and everything has got a place. Listen, when you have to sleep, you have to sleep. When you have to eat, you have to eat. When you are in the social gathering, you have to be a bit active, like you have to be interacting with people. You cannot sit in a corner. All those things are what is appropriate to the given situation can be all the three. So all the three are required, but in its own place. We should, that much of alertness we must have. Once we have an alertness, we know also. Predominantly, if you are a sattvic person, even Krishna, for example, even Krishna like to play a flute, right? Playing a flute is not, it is only a rajas, it is his entrance, it is a preference. Okay, so whereas when he is in a war, he cannot be playing a flute, he has to hold the chariot. So that is, it's all applicable to everyone. Like that Bhagavan says, because he knows what he is. Since Sattva has to predominant be, then he will know also how much of Rajas and how much of Tamas he can allow. He will be alert. The Pramada will not be. The alertness, the Apramatta, the alert living, the space between you and your activity. That is what is important. Activity, Tamas, Rajas and Sattva belongs to the roles. And you are above all the three. Gunatita. That's what he has mentioned some time back also. Gunatita means your Swarupa is beyond the gunas. And he says, earlier also we have read it. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha Nitraigunya Bhavarjuna. Bhagavan has told, Nitraigunya Bhavarjuna. You grow above all the three gunas. And Traigunya Vishayaha Vedaha, they will bind you. Even Sattva will bind you. But your reality is Gunatita. That we have to know. When here his context is in terms of Prakriti. Prakriti means all the three gunas. And all varieties of life are explained by this permutation combination. That is what is the topic we will discuss. Yeah.
Verse 16.
Swamiji, Gunatita is Guna Atita. It is Guna Anatikramya. That is the maximum Guna which I can be exposed.
No. Gunatita is to grow over the gunas. It may be some sort of some people might have interpreted it like this. But we have Shankara has clearly interpreted like the Gunatita means growing above the gunas. That is Gunatita, not maximizing gunas.
Okay.
So because that is the context. You see, So Nistray Gunyo Bhavarjuna. Bhagavan says so, right? Nistray Gunyo means what? Not Gunatitam in terms of maximizing. Nistray Gunyo. You grow over all the three gunas.
Okay.
That's how you have, that kind sort of misinterpretation can be there. We have to be alert to those things. And that's why Shankara Bhashyam is very important.
Verses 16 to 18, the results of these gunas. Karmanaf sukritasyahu svatvikam nirmalam palam rajasastu palam dukkha vajnanam tamasah palam ajnanam dukkham rajasastu palam dukkham ajnanam tamasah palam. Sukritasya karmanaha, for the good actions done. Ahuhu, they say, palam, the result is satvika, connected to sattva, nirmalam, and pure, free from any distress, rajasaha, to but of rajas, palam, the result, dukkam is pain, tamasaha palam, the result of tamas, ajnanam is ignorance. They say the result for the good action done is connected to sattva and is pure, a result that is free from any distress. But pain is the result of rajas and ignorance is the result of tamas. Those who are learned say ahuhu, the following. When the action done is good, the result is satvika, that is born of sattva, and nirmala, pure, devoid of distress. All his life he has done all the vihita karmas that are enjoined by the Vedas and has done the kamya karmas for collecting punya, again as prescribed in the Vedas. All these are good actions born of sattva. Therefore, the result is also sattvika. As a result of this, he enjoys a relative freedom from pain in his life. And after he dies, he enjoys a world free from pain called heaven. He remains in those lokas for a length of time. Swamiji, this example, we can compare one example, Swamiji. For example, I am going to catch an aircraft in another 2.5 hours. If I do a web check-in now itself and then also put in my check-in baggage with details, everything, and have my boarding pass with me ready, when I go walk in, and also I register for the digital PR thing where I don't need to be checked or checked by security baggage. I take the digital PR also with Aadhaar verified and I go to the airport. When I do all that, I will be doing with all tension. But after I go to the airport, no security will stop me, no luggage person will say your luggage is over luggage, anything. And I will walk through the digital PR things easily to the aircraft and be sitting comfortably for 1 hour, sleeping, everything. And then I get into the aircraft. So we can also take that example here, right?
Yeah, it is all the same way. Like anything, whatever, if it so happened that you are in the right place at the right time, you are able to do things properly and you are alert enough, then the result of it is that whatever you have done for 1 or 2 days, the result, the punya will be accruing to you for the next 2 days. But again, by the time you enjoyed all that, you have to start again, Adiyaputta Bharadaputta. So, next activity you will have to be alert again. It will not pay you all the time. Right?
That is correct, Swamiji. We do all that and we go and then we get down and you take your car and...
We always in the sense, Drishtapalam, that is, this is what you say is Drishtapalam. Like, we know it is unfolding in front of you. And even in Adhishtapalam also, we do a lot of rituals, and that's what he is referring to here. In Kamya Karma, Vihita Karma, and all Adhishtapalam. But once you say Palam, Palam means what? Palgudaya liyate iti Palam. Whether it is short term or long term, eventually, when you enjoy it, it's going to come down. So that is why we are stressing that don't be after the Palam. The Palam Trishna, he has told now sometime back. The Trishna will keep you in the cycle of samsara. You have to grow above it. That is why Traigunya Vishayaha Vedaha Nistraigunya Bhavana. So this is told. We must see that and you must understand it to that extent it is valid. And we will not get carried away by this. Very important.
And a few words that we have read here in the last 3 chapters and also in the 7th book, Swamiji, most of these words are already in Lalita Sahasranamam in the short way I understood. So,
yes. Aham iti vibhavaye, Lalita Sahasranamam talks about.
Yeah.
Finally, beginning itself it says, aham iti vibhavaye. If only that is all the sense, the whole life as is given in the Lalita Sahasranam, Vishnu Sahasranam, Rudram and all is aham iti vibhavaye. It's all your expression, the awareful being manifesting into Jagat. It's you are manifesting in the Jagat. If you are able to understand that, then you will be able to get that bhava. While doing it also, you will be the whole glory of the Bhagavan or Ridambika will be, you will be the bhavana will be there when you are chanting and all that. That will keep you that in good spirits, good sattva mindset. Very important.
As a result of this, he enjoys a relative freedom from pain in this life, and after he dies, he enjoys a world free from pain called heaven. He remains in those slokas for a length of time. The result of a karma born of rajas, on the other hand, is dukkha. A person who is impelled by rajas is under great pressure, and because of that, he cannot always follow the right means. Naturally, he will incur papa. When rajas is predominant, papa is unavoidable. So, due to the pressure and also the papa karma, he will have dukkha in the form of varieties of discomforts. The result of the actions born of tamas is ignorance, ajnana. One is born in forms that have only rudimentary knowledge. Even to experience oneself as a samsari is better than being a samsari and not knowing it. A cow is also a samsari, but because she does not know it, she cannot get out of samsara. Such births are the result of a life of karmas governed predominantly by tamas. That is the ajnana here.
We'll stop
Sat-
here. Sorry.
Yeah, we can stop here. We can start 17 next week.
ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम्